Welcome back, Michael at Wickerson Studios. Just a little evidence in the sandbox I'm building to show you how awesome um, using Python and Grasshopper can be. Right here, I've got a little bake on a loft that comes between two polygons that are generated from the scripts that I basically was using to learn about if, else, and elif statements for Python. So even though this is all old school, old hat in Python down here, you can use this data to drive whatever you want and customize these scripts. So if I go in here and bake another one, it's automatically baked to true, even though I should have had it to false. But that one's been baked. I can move that one over here. That's our next generation of what's made. And I can keep playing around with anything until something is scripted. There's another one, so I can take that to bake and turn it off. And there we go. We have another one baked. And we can move that over into another position. You just sit and generate geometry after geometry as you go, which is kind of fun. So let's take a look at what I actually use. So coming back up into here, we'll come back into his. I basically have been writing these scripts. So I was taking a look at else statements. I was using the elif statements. And then there was an example here. And you can see the output is really just strings and text. What it jumps into after is repeating those patterns, but getting into those for loops, you may as well go down in your sandbox and use the range and the series nodes, which come with vanilla Grasshopper. And then I play a little bit with text and strings, breaking through, but it gets you thinking of lists. So it's a nice example of the rain in Spain, and then boom, you can output. And you start to use break and continue statements, which are conditionals that become very, very powerful. So when I bring it back into numbers, looping with while, do this, and I'm iterating through, and it's playing with an ASCII system here of generating an ASCII number, well, I can come down and think about those continues and those breaks and see where I could use them. So I dragged those down into the sandbox. And the continue, I'm not really interested because it generates, no matter what I do, as I bring this, it generates the same amount in the list, 12 numbered list every time I do it. So that's not of interest, but the one that I think was very valuable is the continue. Which continue allows me, as I do this, take a look at the data structures as we move through, and we'll take a look here and just see how many is coming out of the A list. I've got 6 coming out of here, and if I do the same down here, this gets interesting. The number coming out of my numbered list here is 1, and if I do it again, I get, let me make sure I get this, not 1, I gotta get my same list. I have 9 and 9. If I do it again, I get 1 and 1. I get 4 and 7. So it's not always the same. This one as I go to true is 6 and 1. This one as I go to true is 4 and 0. This one as I go, it's 4 and 9. So I'm checking for division by 5 in these scripts, but I'm using them to output. And I've introduced a list in here because you have to do that in Grasshopper. You can't leave this statement out here, and you have to use the append notation to have that. Then I can output list A, which brings it out of the print function to debug a script that you're usually using in Jupyter Notebooks or in VS Code, but specifically you're going in and using this data. And what I do is I take it, and because I don't want to get all this text mixed into here, I actually want to output it from just the numbers. I'm finding the last number in the list. I'm using a range of the last number of that list to lift it up. So when I start to generate these very cool shapes, as we take a look right here, that is going to produce a pretty interesting geometry as I go. And that curve system is going to be different from this curve system. And then when I loft them together, sometimes they'll work, sometimes they don't. So take a look again. And it worked that time, and I generated a very interesting geometry between two curves. It doesn't work every time because divisible by 5 might not put anything into the list. This one put 1 item in and 9 items in. If I do it again, you don't know what geometry you're going to get. That one didn't work. This one's 4 and 1, so it worked. This one is true at 4 and 0, so it's not going to work because there's no lines to go to. This is choose 3 and 0. It's about a 1 in 5 chance of having it not work. And so this one produced another geometry that's unique to it. And it's just a nice little generation tool that allows me, when I have something I want, as a platter system, let's say, let's take it through to the bake, and we've got it. And we'll jump back into the top view, and we'll grab our new item, and we'll just move it down here. And there it is. I'll just move it over a bit. and we're ready to produce our next geometry as we go. And we just keep producing this series. Now I haven't capped these, which I could add more functions, because those familiar with Grasshopper want to use this kind of logic of what they understand. But get in here and use the power of not only learning Python, but use that to drive the data and the information that then becomes the system of what you'll end up creating. So that's the example of it. That's what I think when you start getting into this and using this, you start to become incredibly creative with the very simple Grasshopper notes, which is this note itself for just making a polygon. So it's once your head gets wrapped around it, you can see the potential of doing things that look almost like magic in a very subtle little tricky ways, but you've used the power of Python scripting. It's not a huge script. It's not difficult to understand once you end up learning how to set your types and set your access. You'll be fine, and this will only get more and more complicated. And usually when you look at a script like this and you're pumping out forms like this, let's say this one, for instance, and producing all these different forms, somebody would expect, I don't know, have to play around and do a whole bunch of things in here. I like it because I like to take off situations where I don't have to choose until I kind of get something that I actually like. So here's another one there. I think I threw that one through a bake. This one here, pull that one aside, get it out of the way, and see if there's not another one in here that would be worth making. There it is. Oh, I already moved that one. I moved the wrong one. So that one, let's pull that one out of the way. And now we have another one that's being generated here as we go. And we just keep playing with our scripts and having fun. Turn it on, see if you get something you like. Maybe, maybe not. And there's nothing funky about these scripts. They're just based on, there's an interesting little flat one. May as well bake that one and leave that in as my final one. And what I'm going to do is save a few of these files as we go. Let me jump up here. And I have to just move that face image. Let me take it so it's gone. There you go. There's your last one. See, I am saving a couple of these as save. That will save as my Rhino file, so that I may end up pulling some of these examples in. The problem is these weigh heavy, and nobody wants anybody else's iterations. They want to have the script and learn how to use it. So I think that's it. What I'm going to leave things with on this whole section of getting into Chapter 2 of Book 2, and we're going to continue through with Chapter 3 of Book 2, which is speeding along with lists and tuples, which is kind of what we were starting to get into at the end of this because we were iterating through strings. Anyway, Mike at Wickerson Studios, let's keep going, and let's just take Python to all reaches of where we can go before jumping into C#. Thanks for watching.